back, Mission Driven Moms. I want to tell you a little story from Little Women. You're probably familiar with this classic by Louisa May Alcott. It's about this family of sisters that grow up together and all the things that happen to them. And Meg has married a man named John, and they have a couple children. And of course, all the girls really love and respect their mom, and they look up to her, and they always want to do whatever, not always do whatever their mom says, but they really respect her. And so Meg is now in this situation where she is pretty frustrated and she's out of ideas. And so she turns to her mom for help. Louisa May Alcott talks about how the maternal instinct in her was very strong and that she was entirely absorbed by her children to the exclusion of all else, that she looked worn and nervous, that she was just overwhelmed and frazzled. And this was after she had her second baby. And John, her husband, kind of put up with this for a little while and was patient with kind of her getting used to having these kids and everything. But as time went by and she kept telling him to get out of the nursery and not bother them and to hush and be quiet so the babies could sleep, he just kind of got more and more frustrated. So finally, after about 6 months, he doesn't treat her bad. He doesn't say anything. He's just like, I'm just going to kind of go over to my friend's house and give her some space and see if she can kind of work that out. So he's now spending his evenings with friends, and she basically never sees him. And so she was worn out with watching and worry. So I want to talk for a minute about what happens to Meg and the advice her mom gives her, because it really relates to us as moms right now. So this is what Meg starts to say to herself. She looks in the mirror and she says, yes, I'm getting old and ugly. John doesn't find me interesting any longer, so he leaves his faded wife and goes to see his pretty neighbor who has no encumbrances. Well, the babies love me. They don't care if I'm thin and pale and haven't had time to crimp my hair. They're my comfort, and someday John will see that I've gladly sacrificed for them. So now she's blaming him, and she's justifying her own behavior. And here's the thing, she knows she's doing something good. She knows she's sacrificing for something one of the most important things in life for her children, to be there and to watch them grow and to nurse them and to be there for them every minute. But she's not happy with her situation. She's tired. She's getting kind of down and depressed and worried and anxious. And she never sees her husband, and she doesn't know how to bring him home, and she doesn't know what to say to him and how to solve the problem. And so finally one day her mom is visiting, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna ask my mom what she thinks. She says to her mom, he's away all day, and at night when I want to see him, he's continually going over to the Scots. Men are very selfish, even the best of them. So her mom comes back with, and so are women. Don't blame John till you see where you were wrong yourself. And Meg's like, but it can't be right for him to neglect me. And her mom says, well, don't you neglect him? And so they get into this conversation. Meg is very teachable and very humble, and she really listens to her mom, and she's willing to be honest that she might be doing something wrong. So she says she can't ever leave the babies, and her mom says, I think you're in the wrong, and I'm going to tell you why I think you're in the wrong. You have only made the mistake that most young wives make, forgotten your duty to your husband in your love for your children. A very natural and forgivable mistake, Meg, but one that had better be remedied before you take to different ways. So they've only been married just a few years. They have 2 children, and this is the time, her mom says, when they should be bonding and growing closer. This is the time when Meg and John should be enjoying their children and making their own way as a family, but instead they're becoming split apart, and they're getting more and more distant. So I'm going to read you what her mother tells her to do about this situation, because it's what you and I need to do. And this is timeless counsel for all mothers everywhere. If I were you, I'd let John have more to do with the management of Demi, that's their little boy, for the boy needs training and it's none too soon to begin. Then I'd do what I have often proposed and let Hannah come and help you. She is a capital nurse, and you may trust the precious babies to her while you do your housework. You need the exercise, Meg. And Hannah would enjoy the rest, and John would find his wife again. Go out more, keep cheerful, as well as busy. For you are the sunshine maker of the family, and if you get dismal, there is no fair weather. Then I try to take an interest in whatever John likes. Talk to him. Let him read to you. Exchange ideas and help each other in that way. Don't shut yourself up in a bandbox because you're a woman, but understand what is going on. Educate yourself and take your part in the world's work, for it all affects you and others. I just absolutely love that counsel, because it's what we need to remember when we start going into helicopter mommy mode. And it's all about the kids and their needs and their wants. And we forget that we have needs, that our husband has needs, that the world has needs, and that we need to live. I mean, look at what she said there. Get more exercise, go out more, educate yourself, connect with your husband. Those are all those 4 foundational laws of life mission. And she's encouraging Meg to have more balance in her life, to let her children be babysat sometimes by someone else. I mean, I know people who it's years later and their children have still never been put to bed by anybody else. They've never been fed by anybody else. And, you know, I know couples who have not gone on a weekend in 12 or more years ever since they had children. So this is something that we don't want to have happen. And I'm going to give you just a really short snapshot of something that you can do to start yourself on the path to being better at meeting your own needs and putting your life in a better perspective and not being so frazzled and worn out all the time. Now, this tool that I'm going to give you really quickly is something that I talked about a little more extensively in a Facebook Live training that I did in the Mission Driven Mom Mastermind, I don't know, a month or 2 ago. And if you join that mastermind group, then you can watch the whole thing and get all the information that I shared there. But I'll give you a quick little snapshot. This is what I told the moms to do. Get out a piece of paper and take some time alone and write down every single thing that you're doing right now. And I mean, every single activity that you feel responsible for that is that you do on a day-to-day basis. Then go back through that list and circle every activity that only you can do. For example, you're not the only one that can change a diaper. You're not the only one that can make dinner. You're not the only one that can clean the bathroom. You're not the only one that can drive somebody somewhere. There are things that other people in your world, in your community, in your home can do. And then go to work delegating. There's a handful of ways that you can do this. Meet with your husband, meet with your children, give older children more responsibilities in the home, swap with a friend, pay for the help that you need, whatever resources you have available to you to free up your time and make some space for yourself so that you can pursue in just maybe a few hours a week, something of interest to you, and you can get yourself on the path to mission so that you can educate yourself in the love of humanity. You can learn those true principles by learning to love truth better and getting your own house in order. And you can be that example of womanhood and motherhood that you really want your children to see. Someone who puts motherhood first, we're going to keep doing that, but is also on that mission path, making time for herself and space to develop yourself so that you can have an impact in the community as well as your home, and you can bring your children along on that journey. You remember, if you will prepare yourself, if you will live those 4 laws of life mission, those 4 foundational laws, the God does have a mission for you, and he will help you to recognize and fulfill it if you'll prepare yourself. If you don't know what those laws of life mission are, go to the Mission Driven Mom and grab your copy of the Mission Driven Life book. And if you haven't joined our Facebook group, head on over to the Mission Driven Mom Mastermind and join that Facebook group, and then you can watch that Facebook Live on this tool I've given you today. Thanks so much for watching. Please share and like this if it was helpful to you, and subscribe, and we will talk to you next time.